Mr. Speaker, given this is a survey of contending views and ideas, I want to add my voice to this very important but minor surgery. Mr. Speaker, I rise to make a brief contribution in support of the bill for the amendment of the St. Lucia National Economic Fund, Act number 18 of 2019. Mr. Speaker, I recall at the time that the aforementioned act was passed in Parliament, there was vigorous debate on the National Economic Fund Act, Mr. Speaker. In this regard, I wish to refer to the Citizenship by Investment Act number 14 of 2015, and in particular to section 33 of that act, which states as follows: the St. Lucia National Economic Fund is established. 2, qualifying investments of cash shall be paid into the St. Lucia National Economic Fund. And 3, the Minister for Finance shall lay before Parliament every financial year for its approval the purposes to which the funds will be allocated. We note, Mr. Speaker, that this section of the Act established the National Economic Fund in section 33. The former administration, in their own wisdom, then passed the St. Lucia National Economic Act number 2018 of 2019, in which section 3 of that act also established a special fund, if I recall, to be known as the St. Lucia National Economic Fund. We had vigorous debate on this matter, and at the end, we did not support the passage of this bill. The St. Lucia National Economic Fund Act outlined functions of the fund and established a governing body for the fund comprising almost wholly of members from the public sector. Notwithstanding the foregoing, Mr. Speaker, the functions of the fund which are stated in section 4.1 of the Act are as follows, and that's where the debate is, Mr. Speaker. The functions of the fund are: 1, to advance loans for government-approved capital project; 2, provide investment for government-approved capital project; 2, reduce government debt; 2, purchase government bonds; and to provide monies for a purpose approved by cabinet that is not considered recurrent in nature. Mr. Speaker, if there was one moment that I had to choose to support the member for Cassis East and Prime Minister based on his competence in economics, is dealing with this minor surgery today in this House. You see all the back and forth and all people getting all hot and sweaty, all that lie there, it was highly unnecessary. This amendment is simply removing impediments to the most effective use of the fund for St. Lucia's development. Mr. Speaker, we are of the view on this side that 4.1e is unduly restrictive, in that it restricts Cabinet's authority in how it can allocate funds, especially at this time where we need to get the country out of its financial coma. Mr. Speaker, the debate on the relative merits of recurrent expenditure versus capital expenditure has been a long-standing one. In the past, recurrent expenditure was regarded as being consumption-oriented, while capital expenditure was regarded as being investment to coincide with the definition of the terms consumption and investment in the national accounts. There was a prevailing dogma, Mr. Speaker, that all investment was good since it contributed to economic development, and that recurrent expenditure was bad in that it reflected consumption of goods and services and did not contribute to future development of this country. We now know, Mr. Speaker, that this debate was futile, as there are bad capital investments which do not contribute to economic development and really represent a waste of resources. These projects are known in the common vernacular, Mr. Speaker, as white elephants. These projects contribute little to economic development and represent an extravagant waste of valuable, scarce taxpayers' resources. There were many projects implemented by the former administration that would fall in this category, Mr. Speaker, including the new building, that monstrosity at Auger, that was built in the name of St. Jude's Hospital, which was totally unnecessary, a pure waste of time. But it said about capital expenditure. Capital can be wasteful. Similarly, the new Wasco building in Newport, Mr. Speaker, was a terrible waste of Wasco's resources. Now we are hearing that they are accumulating debt and are in arrears on the bills, Mr. Speaker. Similarly, Mr. Speaker, there are recurrent expenditures that contribute significantly to development and can be rightly considered as an investment in the future. An example of this, Mr. Speaker, is the wages paid to teachers to educate our students. This expenditure is recurrent in nature, but contributes significantly to the future human capital and development of the country. The amendment would now, Mr. Speaker, allow Cabinet to approve essential expenditure from the fund that are recurrent in nature, but also of significant value to the country. So, Mr. Speaker, I therefore concur that we need to remove the restriction that excludes Cabinet's approval of the funds for purpose that is not considered recurrent in nature, and therefore give my full support to the bill amending the St. Lucia National Economic Fund Act number 18 of 2019, namely by deleting the words that is not considered recurrent in nature, Mr. Speaker. Simple debate, simple amendment that has nothing to do with all the arguments advanced by members opposite. The arguments are not even of marginal relevance to the merit of what is established in this Honorable House. And so, Mr. Speaker, I believe the Prime Minister has shown again his brilliance in allowing resources to be utilized for productive purposes in this country and to uplift this country and to take us out of the financial and economic problems that we are in. Mr. Speaker, once again, I yield the floor.